Hello, old school comic book reviews. Today I've got Dazzler number 34 from 1984, 60 cents. Marvel Comics. Okay, so let's start off. We've got this really interesting cover from Bill Sienkiewicz. Right around this time, Bill Sienkiewicz was doing some really interesting work for Marvel. He was doing covers for Dazzler. He was doing artwork, I believe, for New Mutants and some other projects as well. He first kind of got noticed doing Moon Knight, and a lot of people. He was pretty much a Neil Adams imitator, but as soon as he broke away from that, he did some really interesting visual stuff like here. Like I said, colors for Dazzler and other comics, as well as stuff he was doing on New Mutants. So yeah, he was doing some really interesting breakout stuff during the mid '80s. Okay, so this story is Where Have All the Models Gone? Written by Mike Carlin. Pencils are Jeff Isherwood, and the inking is by Vince Colita. Oh, also, I should read this part to you. Right at the top, it says, by popular demand, the return of one of Marvel's Silver Age giants in the pages of the shining superstar Dazzler. Okay. Oh, and I should probably show you this here. There's an ad for Buckaroo Banzai, which was kind of a, I don't think it was a super blockbuster, but it was kind of a semi-hit movie. I never saw it, but it's a movie that still has lots of fans today. Okay, so what's going on in the comic? We start off with Allyson Blair. Allyson Blair is the Dazzler, and basically what's going on, she's over on the West Coast, trying to, well, right now her job is she's running some sort of aerobics class, and one of the ladies in the class are like, hey, this is going to be my last class. I had lots of fun, but I got a new job in modeling, so maybe you should try to model. So Allyson Blair goes home and she kind of thinks about it. Well, I really want to get my singing career thing going, but it's kind of stalled, so maybe I can do some modeling in the meantime. Oh, and right here you see her, she's explaining her powers. She says, hey, sorry about that. Somebody knocked at the door because they wanted to borrow coffee. Okay, so we'll just jump back into it. I'm not really going to do a whole lot of editing, so whatever. Okay, so anyway, Allyson right here takes time to explain her powers. She says, no problem though for Allyson Blair, the Dazzler. Having the mutant ability to convert sound into light does come in handy. There. And that's something you used to get a lot in comic books from this time period, where characters would just openly state things that they already know or other characters already know, just to explain them for the readers. Okay, so here we are. It's the next day. She decides to take a chance, and she's setting up shots of herself and sending in her application to the modeling agency. And here's an ad for a free Spider-Man comic book with your Fig Newton cookies. And then here we go. She goes to the modeling place, and it's Millie's Models, and here she is, Millie the Model. Millie the Model was this comic book that they did back in the 50s. I want to say the character goes back to the late 40s. I'm not 100% certain on that, but 50s definitely. I do know Patsy Walker, whose Hellcat actually goes back to the 40s or whatever. Of course, she wasn't a superhero then, but when Millie the Models had her comic, I think it kind of started out as more of this sort of, the adventures, the high fashion adventures and romance tales of, Millie the glamorous young model, and see her in Europe and Paris and so on and so forth, and they had your little like cutout dolls and cutout paper dolls and stuff like that, and you could dress the character up and things like that. And then I think towards the mid 60s, they made it more of a wacky teen hijinks comic, more in line with Betty and Veronica and stuff like that. Another fun fact, Dan DeCarlo, who's mostly known for doing Archie comics, and also the creator of Josie from Josie the Pussycats, by the way, actually did work on Millie the Model comics back in the mid 60s before he permanently went over to Archie comics. So that's kind of fun. So anyway, Millie kind of gets the job there, and then she goes home, and then there's this dude here who's semi-stalking her, kind of this sleazy guy that's trying to get next to her or whatever, and she's like, come on, dude, why don't you just kind of take a walk or whatever, Oh, it's also pretty funny, he actually calls her doll. He says, afraid you're misunderstanding my intentions, doll. It's like, who actually talked like that back in 1984? I mean, really? Doll? Okay. Anyway, it's next day. It's next day at the modeling agency, and Dazzler meets this lady here with the red hair, who is Chili. Chili was Millie's rival, so it was Chili versus Millie in the old hijinks comics. And this is kind of a weird picture here. The artists have her looking like really old for some reason. I know they're trying to go for like a kind of devilish, mischievous look, but for some reason she looks like she's 50 all of a sudden. Okay, so some more stuff. Like I said, she gets the job, and they set up some shoots and things like that. And here, blah 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 blah. Okay, so now she gets the call where she's supposed to appear at a function. So here they are at the function, and Dazzler notices that somebody has dropped a card that says Revenge Incorporated. And Allyson is like, I wonder, did Chili drop this? She seems like a mean girl. Maybe she's up to something. So anyway, we're here at the big fashion show, and all the models are walking the runway, and then they just start disappearing, and they're disappearing into thin air. And everybody's disappearing and leaving their clothes behind, and everybody's going away. And there's Millie. She's upset because she doesn't know what's happening to her girls or whatever. And oh, here's an ad. I was never 100% certain what these things here are, but I used to see this ad a lot. It says prizes for cash, and I'm not too sure. I think what it is was you had to sell this company's catalogs, or you show the catalog to people and get them to order things, and depending on how much you sold or whatever, you could win any of these prizes here. You can get a watch, you can get a little phone, you can get a bicycle, you can get a racetrack, all these kind of little things here. So there's that. So now we get here, we find that all the girls are being held somewhere, and they're behind bars, and they're wearing clothes, but they're actually wearing different clothes than the clothes that they were originally wearing. And then we find out who the bad guy is. It's this dude, and they're saying, "Let us out of here, you weirdo, you pervert, ha ha ha." And this is Mr. Divine, and his thing is he's actually sabotaging the fashion shows because he thought he got passed over or screwed over some kind of way, and so this is him getting revenge, and now he's going to be the big shot designer in the fashion world. Okay, so here the girls all decide they need to get out of there, right? And what's funny is Allyson Blair asked one of the other women if they have a nail file, and so she starts sawing through the bars with a nail file, And the other women are like, yeah, right, that's never gonna work, and they like turn her back on her. And then what we see, as soon as they turn her back, Dazzler uses her powers to actually melt the bars, and she gets the door open. Okay, and so the girls get out and they rush the dude. And here you see Chili give him a crack, kapow! And then all the girls get loose, and that's it. And then Allyson leaves the modeling agency and says, yeah, let me go back to singing. And she goes home, and then creepy guy is still hanging around, still trying to get her attention, and that's the end. And she says, it's kind of left on a note. She says, da da da. Oh great, this gives me something else to worry about. His Return and Revenge Incorporated, an organization with the ability to make human beings disappear. I don't know which is worse, the rushing hands of Roman Neckelboy, or the strangling tendrils of an organized crime syndicate. Why can't I be left alone? And then next it says Dazzler graphic novel. So that was going to be coming out next month. Kind of a fun, lighthearted adventure. You know what I mean? It's not, it's not Norma Ray. It's not Sylvia Plath. It's not Wonder Woman or anything like that. But just a fun kind of one and done adventure, and for what it is, it works. I kind of wish they'd bring back Dazzler. You know what I mean? I mean, they still use the character, but I'm not into this whole Agents of Shield thing that's going on and blah 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 blah. I like them to bring her back as an updated version of this character where she's trying to do her pop singing thing and then just gets wrapped up in adventures, and you can have all sorts of satire and things like that going on. Other interesting things going in here, bullpen bulletins. The big thing they're hyping here is a revamp of the Dreadstar comic. They didn't renumber it, and Jim Starlin was still writing and drawing it, but he kind of changed the character around, gave him a more traditional superhero-looking type costume and whatnot. And other things they're hyping here: Machine Man #1 limited series, Micronauts: The New Voyages, Doctor Who #1. I'm pretty sure this would have been the Tim Baker? I think it's Tom Baker, Doctor Who. It would have been the guy with the dark curly hair and the big scarf and the long coat. Other stuff they got going on here is, there's Dazzler, there's Kazar. They were publishing Kazar at the time. West Coast Avengers limited series. Oh, Muppets 1, 2, and 3. Whoops. Which was an adaptation of the Muppets Take Manhattan. And one thing that they were doing a lot of at Marvel during the time, or at least, around this time, was they do an adaptation of some movie or whatever, and they release it as a Marvel Super Special in a big magazine size thing. And then they would take that and chop it up into like 3 or 4 comics that were like a limited series, As a matter of fact, they also have it down here. It says Assorted Goodies. Assorted Goodies is Super Special 32, Muppets Take Manhattan. And they also kind of hyped the Dazzler graphic novel down here. What else is going on? Indiana Jones. They had the Indiana Jones. I don't know why I'm showing you this. You can't read it, but Indiana Jones comic they are doing. Doctor Strange still had his own comic. US1. US1 was a weird comic. I remember reading the first issue. I wasn't sure. I probably should have looked it up before I started talking about it, but it was this weird comic about this trucker, and he had some device implanted in his head. He had this silver dollar, and he could kind of control the truck some kind of way, and I don't know, and stuff would happen, and bikers or bad guys or whatever would attack, and he'd have the truck come down there and knock them down and stuff like that. And yeah, it was an odd comic though. Here, Last Starfighter adaptation, Submariner comic, Conan the Barbarian. Marvel still had the rights at that time. What else? Temple of Doom. adaptation. What else? Star Wars, they still had the right to Star Wars. Defenders still had their own comic. Alpha Flight still had their own comic. What else we got on here? Letters page. And oh, the letters are about a previous issue where Dazzler met the Inhumans. Well, subscription ad. It doesn't say it. There's no credit, but this is some John Byrne art. Again, Alpha Flight characters. Buy some M&Ms. And oh, this is an ad. This is an ad again for Dreadstar. And this is from Marvel's Epic line. Marvel's Epic line was pretty similar to DC's Vertical line at one point. Basically, it was either creator-owned comics or Marvel properties that they did through doing experimental things with. So I actually kind of wish they'd bring that back. I know they started to bring it back like early 2000 or whatever, but they canceled it like right away. It's like the only thing they ended up publishing was that Trouble miniseries by Terry Dodson and Mark Millar, and you know, I can do a whole video on that. But anyway, here we go. Dazzler, like I said, 34.60 Marvel Comics, 1984. Okay, once again, thanks a lot for listening, and you have a good day.